The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
The Dave Hooker Show. A presentation of Off the Hook Sports. Objective insight, expertise, top guests. Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free. Also available on offthehooksports.com.
I compute and obey.
Now to Dave Hooker.
Ready.
The madness takes one, but it's not Tennessee, as the Vols were never challenged by St. Peter's, who was just physically outmatched. And credit Tennessee for playing an all-around balanced game. We'll get into that. You even had that guy named Vescovi that we talked about play a pretty strong game as well. You had Ziegler. You had the whole balanced attack as Tennessee wins 83-49. And he's Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker, the show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Caleb, what are your initial thoughts on Tennessee advancing to play Texas in round 2 after an 83-49 victory over the St. Peter's Peacocks?
Well, my first thought, Dave, is that I want to give you a lot of credit. Didn't you say the game would be, you said the score would be 80-50. Wasn't that your prediction?
I think I did go 80-50, did I?
You did. You went 80-50, and you were really close to that being the score, weren't you? I mean,
I was pretty close. And Will, I wasn't going to bring that up, but I was going to let you. Want to be sure and let everybody know we'll be with you throughout the championship game, because Tennessee's going to play in the championship game, right? So we're going to be with you post-game for every Tennessee NCAA tournament game, and we'll get your thoughts on how the Vols played. I was incredibly impressed with how Tennessee was a very balanced team. You and I get excited about watching Dalton Knecht do amazing things. Who doesn't? Who doesn't get excited about seeing Bo Jackson run down the field or run up the side of a wall in baseball? We love athleticism. But this basketball team is better when it's balanced. It's better when Vescovi's hitting some shots. It's better when Ziegler hits a couple of shots. And obviously the big one tonight was Jonas Aidoo. He had a fantastic game. And I just don't know that the Peacocks ever had an answer for him, and I felt like they realized it really early, Caleb. And I'm talking about size-wise. Jonas Aidoo is 6'11", 241 pounds. Their forwards, Corey Washington, was 6'6", 180. Mohamed Sow was 6'9", 195. That's all you needed to know about this game in retrospect.
Yeah, I'm kind of annoyed. I respect Rick Barnes because I'm going to give him credit in a little while for kind of saving his players this game more than he has all year, and he should have been doing this a lot throughout the season. However, it hurt me because I said Aidoo would go for 25. And Dave, with about 10 minutes left in the first half, when he had 13 points, I was ready to text you and be like, Aidoo going for 40 tonight. And
he could have. I mean,
he could have.
They could have decided that J.P. Estrella was going to score 20 points against that team, and he could have scored 20 points.
Yeah, easily could have scored 20 points. And I think that's what really stood out to me was, okay, I have a column, and literally I'm posting it live as we speak, that basically Tennessee did everything it needed to do to win this game. And when I say it did everything it needed to do, it made sure the game was in hand early, David. How did they make sure the game was in hand early? They knew where their matchup advantage was, right? Aidoo, their inside game. You need to outscore them down low because they can't stop you. After that, there's a few things you had to address. One, you had to make sure you had to get back in rhythm after really taking 2 weeks off because they didn't try to play in the SEC tournament game. I don't care what you guys tell me. So I think they focused on trying to get back in rhythm with their shots, making sure they were falling, making sure Dalton Knecht was still Dalton Knecht, and they wanted to still, at the same time, maintain a level of rest, kind of ease back into what they were when they won the SEC regular season title. They did that. They found the hot hand from 3. Dalton Knecht shot fine. Josiah Ziegler shot fine. And they all got rest. I think Zakai Ziegler played fewer minutes in this game than he's played all year long in any game, quite honestly. Someone check that for me, but Zakai's never usually missing more than, you could say, like 5 minutes a game. I think Zakai missed quite a few minutes in this one, and that's a good thing, by the way.
Yep, and not his brother, the other Ziegler. Let's get back to Adu for just a second. 5 of 6 in the first half. He could have scored as much as he wanted to. But then I want to turn to Vescovi, Santiago Vescovi. I just like saying his name. We discussed that on the morning show, and you can listen to the show at 10 a.m. on YouTube. Please hit that like and subscribe button. If you haven't subscribed yet, know that we'll be with you throughout the Vols run in the tournament. But do want to be sure and thank our friends at the Sports Source, because they gave us an absolutely fantastic, and that show airs Sunday morning on WATE. And you've got to check it out. And they provided us with some fantastic information, some numbers about how Tennessee is better with Vescovi than any other options, even if Vescovi isn't shooting all that well. Well, about 20 points better, as a matter of fact, according to the Sports Source numbers. So let me ask you this. If Vescovi's hitting shots, not a lot, but just key shots, I mean, aren't we talking about a team that is way different than what we thought going into the tournament? Because, Caleb, I thought anything they got out of Vescovi was just going to be a bonus.
If Vescovi's doing what he did tonight, you're talking about a national championship team. Because Vescovi, he had 6 points tonight, but he was 2 of 4 from 3. That's all you need. That's fine. All you're asking. That's what you want. No, I agree. And if Vescovi is 2 of 4 from 3 every game, that changes the whole dynamic of the offense. Because again, that if he just hit 2 of those, Tennessee might have actually been in the game with Mississippi State, and they probably do beat Kentucky, who we'll talk about in a minute. But yes, Vescovi has to just hit those shots when he's left wide open because teams are worried about Dalton Connect and Jonas Adu under the basket. That's all he has to do.
At this point, you can be a Jeff Paxson type, to go back a little bit.
John Paxson, by the way.
John, or Jeff was his brother. Or you can be a Steve Kerr type. Now that would have been a little bit disappointing last year, but this year is just fine because you've got Dalton Connect. Again, if Tennessee needs to manufacture points, they can go that way, but they're better when it's spread across the board. They're really tough to defend in that regard. Now, the other note that we wanted to get to is the fact that Tennessee will play Texas, and Jimmy Himes is working on a Texas preview that'll be on offthehooksports.com. Both of our columns, I believe, are up, Caleb. So you can check that out on offthehooksports.com right now. Instant reaction from the game. You have a lot of storylines, needless to say. I think we need to remember how Rick Barnes was fired at Texas. It's not like the bottom fell out, not in any shape, form, or fashion. That was a respectable program. I think he was probably a little bit surprised that he was fired. He knew he had another job lined up, or would. And this has to be an emotional game for Rick Barnes. But I would hope that the players, too, would say, this is his old school. Let's go show them what they threw to the curb. I would hope as a player you would feel that way.
Yeah, and let's not forget how Texas did him wrong, too, because they pulled an Ole Miss with David Cutcliffe, which is to say they fired him, and then they come out and they say, well, we wanted to keep him, but we forced him to make changes to his assistants, and he wouldn't do it. And I'm like, just say you fired him. You didn't think he got the job done. You know what I mean? And so, and have you ever thought about how stupid that is? Maybe more so in football than basketball. But when you say change your coaches, you've probably known those coaches in some shape, form, or fashion for years. You see things the same way. I've always thought pulling the rug out from under a coach, the ultimate way to do it is say replace all your assistants. All right, so what's your name again? I had to hire all new assistants. Are you Bob or John or Tom? I don't know who you are. So, yes, he was done dirty. Yeah, when you do that to a coach, you effectively fired him anyway, because a part of being a coach is letting them hire their own assistants, whether or not now they have to live with the consequences of that. But yeah, it was a really classless thing to do, and it was a way for them to save face. So no, I think, and just so you guys know, just to tell you the type of guy Rick Barnes is, Dave, you may not know this story, but with months after he was fired by Texas, he went back for Texas's graduation because TJ Ford asked him to show up for his graduation because TJ Ford hadn't gone back to school. You remember when TJ Ford was at Texas under Barnes, right? And took them to the Final Four in 2003. Mm-hmm. And he went back to show up for that. That's the type of guy Rick Barnes is. Look, I've told you guys this. I project altruism onto Rick Barnes more than anybody else. So I don't think Rick Barnes himself is going to try to get revenge on Texas because I don't think Rick Barnes believes in revenge. I think that's anathema to what he genuinely believes in, quite honestly.
I don't think revenge is a sin. I don't know. We might have to get a bit.
There is a whole turn the other cheek thing. So
yeah,
revenge that's kind of a sin.
The Faith Outdoors is online. Maybe they can help us. And he did bring up on our message board this, and that was free throw shooting. And there was a couple of sloppy plays I thought in the first half. Let's look at the free throw shooting first, because this will sure bite you in a game that's tighter, and they're going to face games that are a lot closer down the line. But 18 of 25, still 72%. And Tennessee, a couple times, Dalton Connect was guilty of this, was just kind of lazy. He had a turnover about mid-court. I really have zero concern about that because I believe that Tennessee looked at this team like your little brother. And it kind of reminded me, Caleb, if you remember the cartoon where you would kind of hold the guy and he's swinging and swinging, but you're holding him back by his head. It felt like that. It felt like Tennessee was never worried that, I mean, even going into the game, based off tape study, that St. Peter's could stay close to them.
That the first time I ever heard that reference in sports is what people say a Tyson Ali fight would have actually been like. Ali would have been the guy holding Tyson back, and Tyson would be that guy just kept trying to punch. But you know, so it's funny you say that. I think this was, I think Tennessee was toying with them for a while. They were, guys, I told you guys going in, this was a bad NCAA tournament team. Sometimes there are bad teams that they aren't even equipped to put up a fight, and they weren't equipped to put up a fight. The free throw shooting, the only real concern was that Adu was a problem from the line. Nobody else was really a problem, but you don't want Adu being a problem from the line, because what happens in the next game where you need him to be effective down low and seems like maybe we can just foul him and send him to the line and try to force him to beat us from there. Like, you don't want to hack Adu in a situation like that. And so at that point, you'll have to be hitting your threes. But I think for the most part, they were fine. I think one of the things we're underrating here too is, well, I don't want to say underrating, but like, you know, the post game was going to be fine, but the perimeter defense was pretty good too. Josiah-Jordan James, this is why people always wonder what a Josiah-Jordan James is doing out there. He had 0 points on the game, but he had 4 steals, 5 rebounds, 3 assists. That's why you have Josiah-Jordan James as a starter, because of those things that he does, quite honestly.
Agree. Take a second, hit that like and subscribe button. We would greatly appreciate that. Again, like and subscribe so we can bring more people in on the program as Tennessee advances past St. Peter's 83-49 to play Texas in the second round. Again, hit like and subscribe. If you're watching us on Twitter, we'd certainly like for you to hit that retweet button so we can get it out there. And I imagine there are a lot of people listening that are actually at the event, maybe coming home, or maybe they left early. Caleb, it was probably one incredible moment, that 15 minutes of real time for Tennessee fans when Kentucky lost, and then you go out and you dominate to the level that you and I are like, this team's physically not able to beat Tennessee. So those 15 minutes are the best thing that the Vols have had since football season. Those were pretty strong 15 minutes. Let's talk about Calipari for a second and the Kentucky loss. My, oh my. I heard an announcer say it's going to be a long summer in Lexington, a long, hot summer for Calipari or somebody else. I'm not so sure that he's Kentucky's head coach next year.
Guys, yeah, but here's the problem. And I'm going to get, so guys, I have a lot more to say on this tomorrow. So I'm just going to give you guys a teaser tonight. But Calipari doesn't really care. And
Can I tell you a quick story? I had him on after he got fired by the Nets. And
Really?
it was complete. It was don't care. It was apathy. Because you have to ask. So I guess he was with what college would he have been with? I can't even remember. But
Well,
anyway.
he was at UMass, then he went to the Nets, and then he was with the Sixers as an assistant before Memphis hired him.
Okay, so where was he right after the
Nets?
The Nets.
He was Larry Brown's assistant at Philly.
Okay. Well, for whatever reason, I had him on. And I remember him saying, well, yeah, I said, what happened with the Nets? He goes, well, got fired, got my $1.4 million. And we said goodbye and shook hands and walked away. He looks at Kentucky like that. That's part of the reason that Kentucky fans hate him, is because he looks at Kentucky like just another job.
But yeah, I know. Here's the problem. And here's the stat now. He's 1-3 in the NCAA tournament since he got that lifetime contract. He got that lifetime contract in 2019. And the thing about Calipari was, again, I'm going to get into the weeds of this tomorrow, but just on a teaser, I will say you should be very happy for as long as Calipari is at Kentucky and Barnes is at Tennessee, because here's the truth. Whatever you think about Barnes at Tennessee, and if we'll see what he can do in the tournament going forward. But Calipari, remember when he first went to Kentucky, Dave, the first about 5 years, he was loaded. He would lap the rest of the field in recruiting. Not like Nick Saban get the number one class. No, he would get a class that half of that class would still be the number one class in the country, right? During that time period.
Yes.
The things started to even out a lot more in 2015 and 2016. And he started to, and that dribble drive and relying on the athletic man-to-man defense wasn't as effective anymore because other teams were just as athletic. Well, he finally got the recruiting class this past year, like the old ones that would lap everybody, and he still lost in the first round of the tournament. Guys, I'm going to say this, but there is the coaching fraternity has figured out how Calipari coaches these athletes, and he can't adjust, which is to say that Calipari can't coach bigs. He can't coach he can't coach the interior. They know that. And if you work them in the interior, Calipari doesn't know what to do.
Yep. Moondrops Beauty says, price you pay when 90% of your team are freshmen. You're absolutely right. That's his philosophy. He stuck with it. I give him credit for that, but it's resulted in one championship. If we can, let's get back to Tennessee for a second. I want to nitpick because we're talking about a 30-plus point victory. So this is nitpicking when you're talking about 34 points. Is there anything that you saw? We mentioned free throw shooting. We mentioned maybe there was a lackadaisical approach for a little bit because they knew they had this one in the bag before the ball was even thrown up. I don't really have one single thing I can nitpick from this win. This was just a win versus a much lesser opponent.
Yeah, I can't. I mean, what can I criticize that Jordan Gainey had 7 turnovers off the bench, but that's because Rick Barnes was just deciding. Rick Barnes was having fun and putting him at point guard when Jordan Gainey doesn't play point guard. He was just like, let me just give this guy a shot, see what he does. I mean, so I can't even criticize that really. So, you know, he had 3 blocks. Adu had 3 blocks. Again, the only nitpick is Adu struggling from the stripe. That could play into being an issue down the road.
All right, let's take a look at our celebrity challenge, our bracket challenge. Congratulations to John Pennington of the Sports Source, who's leading that thing. Why? It's because of the great information he was able to help us out with on the morning show, talking about how Tennessee was about 20 points better with Vescovi in the game as opposed to those that might replace him. So John Pennington of the Sports Source, that you can check out every Sunday on WATE in Knoxville at 11 o'clock. John Pennington leads, followed by our buddy Zach Hare from Sports Treasures. He is in the second spot. Then Bruce, Jeremy, Mr. Calhoun is also tied for second. Then you go into former Tennessee punter David Leverton. He is tied for 6th. Scott Thompson, our good buddy at Dynasty Pools and Spas, in for 6. Our writer Stacey Oliver in at 6 as well. I'm at 6, but I don't feel good about it because the most points I can score ain't good. Spencer Riley also tied for 6th, the former Tennessee center. Fred White tied for 6th. Jimmy Hyams tied for 6th. T. Scott Jones tied for 19th. That's why he's Tennessee's trial attorney and not Tennessee's picker of games person. John Adams, by the way, rocking it at number 22. Josh Ward down at 26. So it looks like our celebrity bracket challenges is going to get less celebrity-like as we go along, Caleb. But it really was kind of a boring day in the tournament until that Kentucky game. There wasn't a buzzer beater. There wasn't a great upset. And then thankfully you had Oakland flip Kentucky, or this is kind of one of those days, one of the few days that you just kind of forget.
I did pick 11 seed Duquesne, however you pronounce their name. Duquesne, whatever. Duquesne, I don't know. I picked
you and my son are the only two. He has struggled with that today.
At first, I'm like, is it Duquesne? Okay, I did pick them to beat. I did pick them to win against BYU. That Dayton comeback actually was brutal for me. I think I had Nevada winning. So that one hurt me a little bit. But the Oakland, Kentucky one is the one that messed up my bracket the most. But everyone talks about bracket busters, but when you're in competitions, Dave, you never really complain about a bracket buster, because if your bracket's busted, chances are it busted up everybody's bracket. And the Oakland, Kentucky game busted up everybody's bracket.
True. And as long as money's not involved, which it's not in our bracket challenge, but whoever wins, it looks like John Pennington could win that thing now, gets an incredible gift pack. But, and by the way, hit like and
speak for yourself. Money's involved in my Bet US challenges. Okay. So
okay. Well, the if money's not involved, I would rather see crazy upsets and my bracket broke and see great drama. But if money's involved, then I want to be right.
I think a part of the problem, and I watched this with the BYU game today, and this is an underrated part of March Madness, and I only see this in two areas, Dave. I see this in March Madness, and I see this in the NFL with offensive coordinators trying to be head coaches, which you know what I'm talking about, right? Those offensive coordinators that are like that basically they're using their offensive coordinator position to apply for a head coaching job the next year.
Yep.
And which is what they both have in common is the coaches, the coordinators in the NFL and the coaches in March Madness go out of their way to overcoach parts of the game that take away from the simple stuff they should be doing a lot of time. BYU had a guy that was red hot all day that was scoring 27 points, but their coach was like, no, we're just going to run our standard offense still, play the inside out game. And that's how Duquesne got him. It's like the offensive coordinator where it's 3rd and 1 and you have Derrick Henry on the 25-yard line. You say, if I call a play action flea flicker here, they won't be expecting that, rather than just run it with Derrick Henry to get the first down.
Let me ask you this, Caleb, and I'm going to put this on our a YouTube page so you can vote on it, because I feel a little bit better about Tennessee's chances in this tournament, but not a lot. How much does this affect your thoughts on Tennessee and the ability to go deep into the tournament?
It doesn't affect my thoughts on them. It alleviates the concerns that it could have affected. It could only have affected my thoughts in a negative way this game, because they did everything I kind of was thinking that they should do. I mean, look, remember Tennessee last year got to the Sweet 16 when they beat Duke's matchup zone with Olivier Kamwa dominating from the free throw line, and then they go and lose to Florida Atlantic in the Sweet 16. The thing about this tournament is, I mean, it's so gimmicky that, like, however someone played the first game is totally irrelevant to how they play the next game.
A lot of truth to that, especially in this particular case, because St. Peter's was just outmatched. I mean, Texas is not going to show up with a basketball team that is that outmatched physically.
Well, yeah, but Texas, that's the worst game I watched in my life today, Texas, Colorado State.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That was...
I've seen worse. I've seen Tennessee, Delaware.
That is true. Was it at Delaware State or was it Delaware?
No, it was good old Delaware. And then after that, it was Southwest Missouri State knocked them out of the tournament by 35.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. But that Texas-Colorado State game was so bad, guys. And I mean, I cannot believe people – I can't believe people would watch Virginia 2 days ago and then watch Texas-Colorado State today and say, yeah, the NCAA tournament needs to expand. No, they don't. They need to contract. Some of these teams don't belong in. And, okay. I mean – I'm saying that as Texas is about to play Tennessee, but,
Yep. Today's tough question. We'll go ahead and put it out there, give you a chance to vote on that. Today's tough question. right now is brought to you by our good friend Banks and Jones, the show represented by Banks and Jones. Banks and Jones, again, Tennessee's trial attorney.
Today's tough question. Take a side. Take a stand. The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of offthehooksports.com.
Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button if you're new to the channel. We love to pick up new listeners. We got a community growing. It's pretty darn special. Today's tough question is on our YouTube page. It's a poll. You can vote. We want you to do so. How does St. Peter's game affect how you view the Vols? Not at all or a ton. They're really making a run. If you had to choose between those.
Not
and I
at
know
all.
they're on opposite ends of the spectrum, so I'm making it tough on you.
Yeah, I'm going to say not at all. Because I think they're making a run anyway. So not at all. Doesn't change my thoughts on them at all, guys.
Vescovi hitting a couple of shots. Tennessee, I thought you were right that Tennessee was lackadaisical against Kentucky because they were either tired or I don't ever think they were resting. You and I disagree on that, but whatever the reason. Now, the SEC tournament, you brought up a good point, but I still didn't 100% know if you're right about that. If Tennessee would have showed up flat and they were so run into the ground that even that rest didn't help them, then you would have been wrong. But you're obviously right. At this point, if they rested them,
Say that again, Dave. Just say it again because I hear that a lot.
I don't know.
I'm obviously what?
I thought you were right the whole time. But they had to come out and do this against St. Peter's to prove that they're fresh and to prove that you were right, that it is prudent to rest your guys in the SEC tournament because they looked awfully darn fresh. I don't know that any other team looked as fresh as them. So, again, hit that like and subscribe button. We greatly appreciate it. New records on the show. And thank you for joining us in the message board. We greatly appreciate that. For our all of our listeners and for our good friends, our good sponsors, check out offthehooksports.com, offthehooksports.com for more Tennessee coverage, including Jimmy Himes with Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker. This has been a